If the freedom movement is the only thing standing in front of us in New York City,
Foreign or domestic? Who do you serve? You serve the state. You serve the New World Order.
episode 19 with my brother Eric. Welcome, Eric.
My brother, thank you for having me, man. It's a blessing to be here.
We have so much history, bro. When New York was going through the mandates, you were in the medical field and you left. Another gentleman left his job for his principles over his paycheck, man. What was that like? Well, New York City, 2020, they're telling you got to get a shot. What is it like being in the medical field, having a career, and having to leave, bro?
I probably can't even really put it into words. Even now to this day, I can't truly put it into words. The amount of pressure, the amount of undue coercion that was put onto me, and not even in a physical way, obviously, right? There was no physical forcing over here, but the amount of psychological and mental isolation that was felt at this time when somebody was telling you that you have to do something that you don't want to do in order to continue doing what you're doing. As a nurse, we are taught from day one about informed consent. Informed consent was out the window. There is no such thing as informed consent anymore.
Wow.
And, to all my nurses out there, my fellow nurses that didn't realize that, I hope that self-reflection can be performed within yourself. I implore you to do so, to understand just how bad it was for all the nurses out there who ended up not taking it and losing whatever it was that they lost at that time, whether it be leaving the job, being forced out of the job, or their entire career, their entire lifestyle at that time, or their security. These are people who worked for 10, 20 years, who had many more years than me, that were forced out of a job that this was essentially their life, and they were forced out of it. I don't think anybody that hasn't been in that position can ever truly understand what it feels like.
How many years
have your back against you?
How many years were you in the career before this happened in 2020?
At this time, I was 8 years in.
Wow.
About 8 years in. Yeah. 7 to 8 years.
And they had you working through the pandemic. You guys went from, it's like the heroes to zeros thing.
Correct.
You guys were working with people with the C, we can't say the word, with the C, and putting you guys could have gotten sick. You could have brought it home to your family. And then they made these mandates. How many people would you say at the location that you were at least at first, were against the shot and then maybe left with you? How many people would you say didn't like that they were being forced to get the shot?
Well, I can literally count on my hand. 5 people out of probably, if I had to put a number on it, maybe 100-200. I'm just talking within my immediate units.
Right.
So, yeah, about 5 people. I don't know the totality of it. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's maybe 1%.
Wow. And now with all this information coming out that, the shots do have side effects and stuff, people in this line of work now, do you think they know now that this was one big mistake? Do you think that the field now is looking at it very different than they did in 2020?
No.
You think they still believe in the shots, and they still
do? I think I think it's a bit of a it's almost like a trick question, because do I think that they believe in it? Who knows? Maybe some people do, maybe some people don't. Maybe they realize that, okay, maybe it's nothing, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do at the time. They can look back, but past all that, I don't think that there's the majority feeling is that it's already done. We've already gone past that point, that boundary line. It's not something that I want to remember. And I'm thinking in the mindset of many of my fellow coworkers who I see now, and it's like it's almost like it's like 9/11, right? It happened. It was a bad thing.
We moved on.
We're done. We're done.
Amazing.
And you know, it takes work. It takes a certain sense of responsibility to go back and rethink about your decisions, rethink how your decisions affected other people. Right? That's mental work. That takes responsibility. That takes accountability, which is one of the major things that you and I have seen lacking in today's climate. So, I don't even know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say who might feel aware of, you know, how bad it was, how bad of a decision was, and it's hard to say how many people might still believe in it fully. But regardless, I don't think anybody cares to go back to it and rethink it.
And even with the information out there, that's why like for me, like if I'm in a field, I did personal training, right? And I'm telling everybody fasting slows up the metabolism for years. I remember people saying 3 to 6 meals. If you want to lose weight, just smaller meals, lower the amount of calories you take in, burn more calories out, right? And I'm telling everybody that you got to eat 3 to 6 meals. But then I've learned that fasting is not only healthy for your body, but great for your system. So I had to recalibrate how I see when I was training people. Do you think there's any of that now with this information out? I mean, people that are in this line of work, you don't think at all that they're maybe just doing some self-reflection, like, okay, you know, we thought one thing in 2020 and now in 2024 with the dangers of these shots, pericarditis, myocarditis, you don't think there's an overall consensus of at least they're just looking at the whole, you know, with the new stats out, looking at this from a whole new lens?
I do. I think that there are people that are doing that, you know, and I'm rethinking about how confident I felt when I just answered your previous question, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm saying like people aren't going back to it.
Yeah.
I think that there are people going back, and there are people that are self-reflecting. I think that people are looking back and applying it to now. Like if it happened again, I think that there would be a little bit of hesitancy to just go along with whatever the main narrative is being put out there again. However, past that, and this is just my personal opinion. Yeah, this is just me. Sure. Once they've already made that decision, I'm not saying that it's the end of the world. I think that there is still a way to redeem oneself from going down that pathway, making that decision to get the thing and going down that road and accepting. You know, it was a very spiritual matter. People sold their soul for whatever it was, whether it be a job, whether it be going out to being able to continue a lifestyle, like going on vacations or going to concerts or anything like that. I remember very distinctly people saying, vacation. "Oh, I'm gonna get," even in concerts, right? This one guy told me about his daughter. He was saying, "Oh, I didn't get it," and I said, "Good, God bless you. That's awesome." He was like, "Yeah, you know, but my daughter got it. She wanted to get it because, you know, she wanted to go to the I forgot Ariana Grande concert next week or something. And I told her not to get it, but you know, can't stop her."
Right.
And I just looked at him. I was just like, you know, I was very, I don't want to say I was angry, but I was fired up. I was in war mode at that time. And in some ways I still am, but it's not, it's a different mode. But I looked at him. I was just like, dang, man, like you're going to let your daughter, your teenage daughter go ahead and get it. Even though you believe that it's not something, you're going to allow your daughter to get it, put it into her body just so that she can go to a concert. And I mean, it's not a matter of judgment. You know, I'm not looking at this guy, maybe back then, you know, and God forgive me if I was judging him at that time, but you know, looking back now, it's more like it's a reminder that living a life of principle is never more important today than it was in the past, at least in our lifetime.
Yeah.
With the things that we're facing, it's never more important to be a man of principle and to be able to speak that principle, live that principle,
Walk it.
exude,
Yeah.
walk it, right?
Yeah.
Not just be a hearer of it, but be a doer, as the word says. And so, um, living a life of principle is key right now for men. And I'm speaking to all the men out there. Live a life of principle, and the only way to know that, to do that, is you got to know what principle first. You got to know your principle, but live a life of principle.
I love it, bro.
Anyway,
you now you're in Florida and you're in the medical field. Do you see any change of the culture or environment post COVID, post the pandemic? Do you see a different in the culture, specifically in Florida in the medical field?
Florida was awesome in the sense that there was a lot of resistance. It was a completely different setting as New York, right? From what we experienced. The feeling in New York was, you could feel the whatever, for a lack of a better word, dark energy or spiritual energy, demonic forces, whatever you want to call it. There was a lot of, you felt it very vividly. The pulse was strong in New York. I would say in Florida, it was almost like a safe haven for a lot of people, right? They left there because they weren't getting the same pressure that they were in, say, California or New York. And of course, we know the government there, the state government, was not quite as publicly pressuring on the public. What I learned was that within certain cities, big cities tend to be the big cities, you had a lot of pressure.
Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville,
Tampa, I assume, Jacksonville. They were more, the larger the city, the more kind of pressure that you felt. But even there, it wasn't quite the same. So you had a lot of people that were just resistant to it. And it sounds like, after having some conversations with Floridians, the pressure lasted for a couple weeks, and people held their ground. They held the line, and they were successful. Pressure just kind of stopped, it more or less. People perhaps voiced some things out. Maybe they wrote some letters. Maybe they put a letter of exemption, something like that, anything like that. And then eventually the pressure just stopped. But it was a very short time. Whereas we here in New York, we felt it for months and months and months, very long. And so there are nurses now that some got it, some didn't get it. People still talk like quietly about it, so it's not to conjure up talk of division or
right.
Like
because
any
some people
arguments.
did get it.
Some people did get it right. And so I think that there are definitely healthcare workers that are more cognizant of what happened and are resistant to anything going forward, which is cool, which is good. There are some healthcare workers that did get it, and now they do realize. I've had some conversations where they do realize that that they messed up, or that they were supporting it at the time, and now they don't.
I mean, everybody was lied to. So, we always, and that's kind of the compassion for everybody. The government, the way the government was going about it, forcing the information down our throats. For me, watching behavior patterns, specifically criminal behavior patterns, it was very, very reminiscent to like strong arm tactics. Growing up in the streets, I've seen these tactics. We went from we'll give you a free donut to I'll take your job in a matter of a few weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen this in the streets, bro.
Yeah.
So we watched it happen to New Yorkers, and honestly, brother, that's what really, and we'll get into the freedom movement, but that's what really brought me into the freedom movement, because I was watching how they were doing this to the city workers, and I heard sanitation guys or doctors or nurses, teachers go from I'm not getting it to what am I going to lose my livelihood?
Same, right.
And I'm like, oh, they're being picked on. This is literally extortion.
Right.
And but you are one of the New Yorkers that actually picked their principles over a paycheck, man. And salute to you, man. I try to bring everybody on. We've had police officers. We had Samantha on. She's doing very well for herself now. Awesome. But all these people that we have, these New Yorkers that literally pick their principles over a paycheck. It's honestly an honor to know all you. My wife as well. real stand-up humans and New Yorkers, not only standing for yourselves, but actually standing for New York. It's beautiful.
Amen to that. I will give glory to God though, because you know what, at the end of the day, and you know, we'll continue to talk about how I got to this, because 2 years ago I would have been like, you know, stood on my own feet and said, chest out, chin high, and be like, yeah, we stood up for New York and we fought for New York. And you know, back then, that was it. I mean, I felt like I'll be honest, I felt like that was my purpose in life. You know, it felt like the most purposeful thing that I've had in my life as a man. And I don't think that there's anything more valuable than living a life of purpose as a man. As a man, I'm talking as a man.
Brother. Yes, sir.
I don't think that there's anything more fulfilling, you know, and that purpose obviously is going to be different for various people with different situations and whatnot. But, you know, me, even though, you know, nursing was never it was never the be all end all for me personally. I enjoy it. It's a great career, or it was a great career. But it didn't fulfill that purpose in my life. But now I look back, and it was only by the grace of God, man, that everything occurred exactly as it did. And so glory to God for us and for all of us that went through that, because I think that it was a wake up call. And he put us in place for a particular point now. With everything that has occurred since then.
And what a beautiful group, right? What a beautiful group of people, and really you see God's hand bringing us all together.
Amen.
Speaking of that, I think we met one time before the Cheesecake Factory. Eric we are 2 of 6 of the Cheesecake 6. Shout out to Mitch, shout out to Ray, shout out to Steve, shout out to Lito. What a night that was, brother, because that felt like we were having a moment. At this time, we had the momentum of like the NYPD were fighting against the mandates. They just rolled over the teachers, I believe.
Yes.
But the FDNY was next, right? So we wanted to do something, and we went into a Cheesecake Factory where they were asking for the card. The card, I can't say the card, and we denied, and we said, listen, we have about 40 people here. We're all willing to pay. This is a big money night. Cheesecake Factory could have made that night.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we decided that we were going to stand our ground. What was that night to you? Like, walk me through that night from your perspective, being that you got arrested.
Let's see, man. I haven't thought about this in a while, to be honest, man. It feels like ages ago, yet it just feels like yesterday. And Cheesecake 6. So I was hyped, man. Man, the energy back then. I mean, you guys can attest to it. And everybody listening that was there, I know y'all will feel it. That energy was
up.
And you know, I mentioned that I was kind of in war mode at that time. That was it felt like we were walking into a battle, man. And we honestly were. We were walking into a battle. You know, we are trained to think, because of entertainment and Hollywood and all that war is a, you know, we're fighting with our hands, but it's not. It's a mental war, psychological war, and that's the warfare that we're fighting right now. So we were walking into battle, and I felt that I was ready to go. You know, the mindset was, listen, we're here to expose the evil and tyrannical power that's attempting to trample on us, and we got to stand up for New York. We gotta save New York. We gotta do what we can to expose this craziness and stop this. Just resist it. Hold the line, right? Hold the line. That was the overall feeling. So I was ready to go. I was ready to go all the way. I mean, I knew that there was a possibility of getting arrested, but that's the whole point of a sit-in, right? That's the whole point of civil disobedience. You know, if you're gonna go and choose to do that, you can't go 90%, you can't go 85%, you can't even go 99%. You got to go 100% or you're not. And the nerves were high though, man. Nerves were high.
And looking back, right, you start to realize that, at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference. But we're looking at New Yorkers that don't have no playbook. I was talking to Brother Jesus about this and saying that there was no real playbook. There was no real direction. We were trying to find answers. And those that really wanted to make change obviously progressed into other things, holding their elected officials accountable, learning the law and stuff. But you just have these New Yorkers that were just full of emotion and just wanted to make change.
Yeah.
And obviously 3 years ago, looking back from 3 years ago, you go, oh, they were just doing a sit-in, they got arrested, nothing really happened.
Yeah.
But it's just the heart of people going, we have to do something. We have to shake this matrix. We have to shake this. And it went nationwide. And people started saying, wow, they're arresting New Yorkers from not showing a card. This is very tyrannical. This is happening in America. And at least that was a takeaway. I would have liked to see more people get arrested that day, because I want to make the NYPD, because they're just following orders, make them write down all the names. Anytime we do these civil disobedience, I like to do it in big numbers. Unfortunately, the numbers don't show up, but we keep we keep swinging at it. But just to have them humanize themselves to actually this person and then that person, and then just doing all the paperwork, and it humanizes the machine. You see, and then you have the owner of the place, and you see 40 people, women, men, being pulled out in handcuffs, and it humanizes again. And that's what we need, because this following orders is so automated. It's so anti-human to be just following orders the way we are. And now look where we are now. None of these things, that these medical, tyrannical things that they instilled, were even effective. Where we're looking back, and we just did this to New Yorkers, and we're just going to act like this never happened in New York.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's wild, man. We're living in times that it's almost unbelievable. I still can't grasp it, honestly.
Right?
I still can't grasp it.
Like a dream.
It's like a dream. It's like a dream. And see, that's the crazy part. That's what gets me so bugged out sometimes, because there are people outside of here that they didn't understand. They didn't go through that. Their backs were not against the wall. They were never asked to show a Jabberwocky card and have to, to be able to eat.
Right.
They never did. They just weren't, and yeah, they heard about it. They heard about, oh wow, that place down in downtown is, they want to have, they want people to wear a mask and all that, but they didn't feel it themselves, man. Most people did not feel it themselves, and the experience, and this is not coming out as this is not a personal boast. I don't necessarily feel pride. 2 years ago, I would have felt pride.
Right.
2 years ago, I would have felt pride. I would have been like, yo, we stood up for New York. But you know what? Nah, man, this is it's an act of undue pressure. This is a spiritual battle. This 100%. Is a spiritual battle. And yeah, it's real.
Yeah, man. Eric, I'm having you on because you were in a near fatal accident on a motorcycle. Can you take us through that? Like what exactly happened in this car accident?
All right. Physically speaking, I went for a motorcycle ride, and I was going down a windy road, and long story short, collided with another vehicle. Almost head on. Next thing I wake up, I blacked out for a moment, found myself on the ground, couldn't move, and then fell asleep. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in an emergency room. And I was cognizant that I had gotten into an accident. I was cognizant that I got myself into that situation. I was also very adamant that, one, I was not going to get the Jabberwocky. Two, I was not going to get Jabberwocky blood transfusions. And three, I was not going to do surgery. So I was very dead set on that. And put this into perspective, this was 2022. So all of that stuff was kind of just the pressure of giving that to everybody was just kind of, it was still there, but it was kind of calming down ever so slightly. So when I woke up in the emergency room, um, my first thought was, y'all are not giving me the Jabberwocky. I'm not taking it. So if y'all were planning on giving it, you might as well just let me go right now. They said no. It's the last thing on our minds. We're not doing any of that. Don't worry about it. And they kind of brushed it off. I believe them. I believe them. So I said, and as a nurse in the emergency room, I know how it goes in there. I have an idea of how it works. So I believed them when they said that. I also said, look, I'm not going to get surgery, and I'm not going to get any tainted blood. So they couldn't really give me an answer. They said, I don't know if the blood's going to be Jabberwockied or not, but we have to give you whatever it is that we have to give you. So I said, all right, but if there's any way we could verify it, please do so. So they said, okay. I said, fine. But anyway, I said I didn't want to do surgery. The surgeon or the doctor, the ER doctor came to me 3 times. First time he tells me, look, we're likely going to have to do surgery. Now, I had a lot of internal bleeding. I had a few bones that were broken. Couldn't quite move so much. But other than that, my skin was intact for the most part. My skin was intact. I just had a lot of internal bleeding. He told me, look, you're bleeding a lot inside. we're going to have to at least stop the bleeding. I said, all right, I'm okay with that. But past any invasive surgeries, I don't want that. So he said, yeah, well, there's still a possibility. I said, no, I'm good. So he said, okay, so you're willing to just die? And I said, yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't want any surgery. I could tell that he was a little perhaps surprised or taken aback, but he said, I'm going to give you a few minutes. We're going to do our thing here, look you over, get you treated, and I'll come back to you. So I said, okay, that's fine. My parents came in, right? I had a couple visitors. I had a couple loved ones come in, and I was dealing with a lot of personal issues at this time, anger issues, resentment, family related. Much like I know everybody, you, me, everyone, we all deal with family issues. It affected me to a point where it was almost like a cancer, spiritually speaking. It was a cancer on me, and it was holding me down. Just a year before that, when we were dealing with all the mandates and dealing with everything in New York City, it was almost as if that was a distraction, or at least I'm looking back now. I feel that it was a distraction. I had the real problems. What I thought were real problems in New York City was only secondary to the personal problems that I held in my life that were the real issue. Because no matter what fight that we had in New York City, we'd get by that. We'd adjust. Whether we move out of New York City, whatever, we'll find a way to work around that. But when you deal with family, when you deal with personal anger issues or personal resentment, betrayal, all those feelings that we all encounter within our families, we never realize that spiritual warfare is at home, and not only at home but within ourselves. And I didn't realize it up until that moment that I was dealing with very real personal issues at that time. And so anyway, going back, so the surgeon came up to me once. I declined on surgery. My parents came in. I told them very bluntly, I said, look, I'm not going to do surgery. It's not, if it's my time, it's my time. And I give them credit because they didn't stop me. They didn't stop me. They didn't plead, please please consider it. They didn't tell me, we want you to stay. They it it was they allowed it. They allowed me to make my choice, which is crazy, and I'll get to that in a second. Um, so I essentially said my goodbyes without saying goodbye yet. Um, so my loved one stepped out. Surgeon comes back. He says, you know, it's looking like more like we're gonna have to really do surgery now. At this point, we can't stop the bleed, or at least we'll attempt to do the bleed, but more than likely we'll need to do surgery. I said, no, I'm good. I don't want a blood transfusion, and I don't want surgery. And he told me, look, I may have to be the one to tell your family that you're dead. Are you gonna be okay with it? And I said, if that's what it takes, then it is what it is. I'm ready to go.
Wow.
And he says, I have to let's keep doing what we're doing right now. You're gonna have to get some blood. Um, I can't tell you if it's the status of it. And I said, all right, you know what? That's fine. I saw it running already. I couldn't stop it actually. I remembered I remember looking up and seeing that the blood was running. So they gave it to me, and I know that that's just part of protocol with a patient that's coming in and requiring it right away. They don't even ask. So I was getting the blood, and I said, all right, I don't want it, doc. And he said, you know what? I'm gonna come back one more last time in a little while and just give you one more chance, just a few more minutes to think about it. So I said, it's fine, but I don't want it, doc. It was at this point that God got my attention. We not in some kind of Hollywood style, like, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, nothing like that. I had a very real conversation with God. And, he told me, he said, look, Eric, you have a choice. And you know what? If you're ready to go, I'll respect it. It's your choice. I'm not going to stop you. I can't force you. Um, but choose life. Choose life. And I promise you that I'll take care of all your problems. I'll take away all the pain. Just choose life, and I will carry you through. I will carry you through.
Wow.
And it's crazy because those words. I mean, I felt it at that time. I said, that all that unloading of all that pain that I was carrying with me. I felt that peace that God was offering me. He was giving it to me, right? If I wanted, but it was me for it was mine for the taking, but I had to choose. He was giving me that choice. Looking back now in hindsight, he was telling me that I have a plan for you. I have a plan for you. And again, looking back in hindsight, after everything that we've been through with the mandates, and I think I mentioned earlier that I never felt like I had more purpose in my life than when we were doing the mandates, right? When we were fighting it and on the streets, and I never felt more fulfilled than then. This is what God was preparing me for. He gave me a preview. He gives us previews. He gives us previews in life of what he wants us to be doing, or where he wants us to be in life, what kind of work he wants us to be doing, or what his will is. He gives us previews. He gave me a preview in the mandates. He gave me an idea of what it's like to live a life of purpose. And now looking back, when he told me, just choose life, I'll take care of all your problems, it was almost as if he's purging me of all that was holding me back from being able to do or fulfill the purpose that he has for me, what he has for me in store.
Wow.
And
wow, bro, I'm getting chills, man.
when I tell you, brother, I can't even fully put into words the feeling, because it's more than a feeling, and that I can't really I can't really verbalize sometimes. I can put it into words. So it's interesting. Anyway, going back to my parents, my parents gave me that they didn't plead because I wonder now. I think back and wonder if they had pled for me to say just hey, don't just get surgery, please get surgery. I don't know if I would have. I probably would have been pushed further even more because I was still holding on to that anger.
They literally let you make the choice.
They let me make
Everybody.
the choice. Yeah, exactly.
Not only your loved ones, but God Himself.
Yes,
That's so powerful. What a powerful testimony, Eric. Any last words to the people that are still in the medical field, people that are still working in that field and now seeing what's going on in 2024? Any last words for anybody searching to find Christ in their life, or maybe they feel a little despair in these troubled times? Any last words for anything like that?
How much time do we have?
Floor is yours, kid.
No, let me let's just frame it how it is where we are in the time of history. We've mentioned it already, but I'll just keep on reinforcing this. We are in a spiritual war right now, and we're at a fork in the road. You either have God's way or the world's way. We saw a preview of where the world is leading with COVID. COVID was am I able to mention that? I'm able to say.
Try to refrain from saying COVID.
We got a preview of where the world is wanting us to go. Okay, and I'm confident that for those that are hearing, for those that have, there's a seed in all of you that is wanting to know the truth and to follow the truth. And I implore you, I encourage you, I pray that all of you who have any kind of doubt, seek the truth, because God is calling you. God is calling each of us. God has called us, Greg, you and I, Crystal. We've been called, everyone that has gone through the mandates, we've been each called with very specific purposes now in this very time. But all of you that wasn't with us or wasn't in New York at that time, every one of y'all are called. Open up your ears, open up your eyes, and seek the truth. And don't let the world force you into a place where you're going to regret it. And I don't mean that as a fear-mongering tactic. I mean that as for your own benefit and for your own safety and for others. We're at that fork. Choose the right way. It's going to be very clear. God's way or the world's way. Choose God's way.
Powerful. What a powerful episode. Eric, thank you for coming. You've been a great friend, spiritual mentor.
Amen.
And I appreciate you taking the time out, sharing your time with us. Episode 19 with Eric, and we're out.